Well, guys, man, Tony Grossi is known to hate on Shedeur Sanders ever since Shedeur Sanders stepped on a football field, dating back to his Jackson State days and his Colorado days. Tony Grossi hates on Shedeur Sanders. This latest encounter between Tony Grossi and Shedeur Sanders was caught on camera. Now Tony Grossi is mad. But we're going to dive all into that next here on the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Well, guys, man, you know who Tony Grossi is. Tony Grossi is a radio personality out of Cleveland, Ohio. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio. And now that Shedeur Sanders is a member of the Cleveland Browns, Tony Grossi goes out of his way to hate on Shedeur Sanders. Now, Tony Grossi has said a lot of things leading up to Cleveland Browns' first preseason game. He went on to ESPN in Cleveland, and he talked with his co-host, and he was hating on Shedeur Sanders because there was information out there that Shedeur Sanders had some arm soreness. And Tony Grossi went out of his way to hate on Shedeur Sanders, talking about how did he get arm soreness? Who's he been working with? I mean, he don't get no first team reps. I mean, hating on Shedeur Sanders in any way he can hate. Now, Tony Grossi has said some things that a lot of people question on what his motive is. And his co-host says, man, come on, man, give the kid a break, man. Are you going to give the kid a chance? Stop creating these narratives. So what happened? Shedeur Sanders' first preseason game against the Carolina Panthers, Shedeur Sanders balled out. Shedeur Sanders led the Carolina Panthers to the Cleveland Browns to a 30-10 win over the Carolina Panthers, where Shedeur played majority of the snaps late into the third quarter. We saw Shedeur Sanders go 14 to 23 for 138 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns. He was only sacked twice. He had a passer rating of 106.8. And also, he carried the ball 4 times for 19 yards, and his longest run was 10 yards. And he didn't turn the ball over. And after the game, Shedeur Sanders got a chance to meet with Tony Grossi in the tunnel. But what happened was Tony Grossi was asking Shedeur Sanders some questions at the post-game press conference, and Shedeur Sanders was answering the questions, and he really didn't go in on Tony Grossi. He found the right opportunity when he saw him in the hallway, and he addressed him. Now, Tony Grossi is upset that encounter was videotaped and caught on camera. Now, Well Off Media. Shout out to Well Off Media and Deion Sanders Jr. He's going to document everything surrounded around Shedeur Sanders. So Tony Grossi knew that particular moment will be caught on tape. But you had no problem going out on ESPN in Cleveland, the Fan, and denigrating and down talking Shedeur Sanders. Now you mad that the encounter that Shedeur Sanders rolled up on you. You're mad because that was caught on tape and it was put out on social media and everybody is, really clowning you about it. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what that encounter took place. And then we're going to follow up with the interview that Tony Grossi had after that, talking about the whole situation. But before we get off into that, we've partnered up with Underdog Fantasy, and this is a word from our sponsor. Underdog Fantasy is the best way to play fantasy sports. Let me tell you about the easiest way to get in on some WNBA and NBA action. Find your player, pick higher or lower, win you some extra cash. Pick between 2 to 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry, get every pick right, and win some serious cash. Use my promo code SBD23 and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now that it's football time, follow Simply Ball Dropping as I share my picks. Like I said, pick your player, choose your amount, win money. Make picks, win cash. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for the partnership with us, and thank you for using promo code SBD23 on Underdog Fantasy. Now, let's get off into what that encounter took place after Shedeur balled out against the Carolina Panthers. Let's take a listen to what that encounter entailed.
Tony, I be hoping you be. Tony, I be hoping you got something positive to say about me. You always say negative stuff about me, and I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you. No. I ain't see nothing positive that you ever say. I did something positive every day. What up, Tony? Come on, Tony. What I do? What I do to you, Tony?
Now, you heard what Shedeur Sanders had to say, and you heard Tony Grossi's response. Now let's get into the interview that Tony Grossi had when that clip surfaced all around social media. And this is what Tony Grossi had to say in his latest interview.
Well, it's whether it's famous or infamous, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, obviously, Tony, we have a lot to talk about since we talked to you last time, but let's start it off with the interaction heard around the world. And I want to call it an interaction because I saw a lot of people call it a confrontation, and it did not seem confrontational. But you and Shedeur Sanders had a chat after the game on Friday night, after the game on preseason. The floor is yours.
Well, I think one other thing to note is that I initiated the conversation. He left the podium to walk into the locker room, and I called his name to ask him another question. And that's when we discussed what was on his mind. And he was, I was a little surprised that he went into that because, as I said, it was inaudible, but I said, hey, this is your night, man. It's a big night for you. Have fun. But I appreciated the fact that he did not say what was on his mind from the podium, as other quarterbacks have done with me, which is very uncomfortable. And I also didn't appreciate the fact that this interaction was filmed without my knowledge. And it turned out it was his brother who is doing, I don't know, they're documenting everything of his rookie season, and that's fine. Now that I'm aware of it, I'll be a little more careful in everything. But everybody saw the video. It was good natured. We at one point, I don't know what caused us to laugh. I really can't recall that conversation precisely, but we went on good terms, and we had a couple other words in the locker room too. But it was fine. I was a little bit surprised though that on his big night, and it was a big night for him, considering all the circumstances, that he would raise this. I thought that's why I thought he was joking. It shouldn't have been that big a deal on his mind after his big night. But anyway, all was good. Saw each other today at practice, and we move on.
Now, you heard what Tony Grossi had to say. Now, let's dive deep into this. Now it seems like that moment was caught on film, knowing Tony Grossi, that was going to be captured because of well-off media. That was going to be captured. So now you're trying to play the dumb role, knowing that was going to be captured. But it seems like Tony Grossi was humbled a little bit because, he spoke volumes in that little soliloquy. He said that Shedeur had a big night, and he said he was glad that Shedeur didn't address him on the podium like other quarterbacks do. So he was grateful for that. And also, he said that, they're on good terms. It seems like now that Shedeur has confronted you and spoke to you about why you always hating on me, now you have a different stance. But I'm not going to let that fool me, because we know what Tony Grossi does. Tony Grossi has been in the news about the hate on Deion Sanders, the father and the coach, and Shedeur Sanders. We know all the slander he was getting when he played with Colorado. Tony Grossi was spearheading all this narrative about Shedeur and Coach Prime. So don't fall for the okie doke. Now you mad that it was captured and it was put out on social media and it went viral and everybody's talking about it. So the first person that got a chance to get an interview, you ran with it and you had to address it. But don't let Tony Grossi fool you. Tony Grossi dislikes Shedeur Sanders. He wants Shedeur Sanders to fail. And that's just the bottom line. Tony Grossi is mad because it was captured and it was put out there for the world to see. Now it's almost like he's backpedaling. Like he's almost in his DB stance and he's backpedaling. I see everybody in the comment section, #salute. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger, just in case I forgot. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.